All right, welcome everyone. Holding by Pirke Avos, ethics for our fathers at its known. Again, I want to welcome everyone. Holding by Pirke Avos, ethics for our fathers. We're holding by chapter 2, Mishna 14. We are now part 5, which again, there'll probably be part 6, part 7, part 8. But we are now part 5, and we're actually next part of the Mishnah. Again, the Mishnah says, he said to them, go out and discern from which is the evil path, from which a man should distance himself. Rabbi Lezer says an evil eye. And now we're in the next part of the Mishnah. Rabbi Yeshua says a wicked friend. So now the question is, what do we mean? What do we mean by a wicked friend? So, simple explanation is that someone who's going to try and convince you to do the wrong thing and not go in the right path. And this obviously, and this we're going to flush out, but this obviously can have detrimental effects on a person who wants to do the right thing, who wants to go in the right path. And what's the problem? They have connection to their past. And because they have connection to their past, their friends trying to convince them otherwise. Right? There's tremendous pressure. Go down the wrong path. A person comes out of idolatry, or someone's about tshuva, i.e. a return to Judaism. Right? Someone who grew up as a Jew, but didn't grow up religious. Yeah, they go through similar things. Right, and that is, they think, mistakenly, they think they can keep the same friends they had before. And what's the rationale? The rationale is, I'll change them. I will have a greater influence on them than they'll have on me. And the reality is that they'll change you more. And you got to be very careful here. Now, a person may have all the right answers. They think they're going to try and be makar of them, draw them closer. Right? They'll think they have an obligation to, which may be true. You know, Jews certainly have an obligation to reach out to other Jews, try and bring them back. As we mentioned many times, it does not apply for non-Jews. We don't have an obligation to reach out to them in general. But, you know, to secular Jews, we should reach out. Now, reaching out can come at a price. Right? There's always a question that people have about having, let's say, secular guests. We're not talking about where they leave on Shabbos. How about they stay over, let's say, for Shabbos? Yeah, and you have secular guests. So there's always the question, you know, if a person has kids, what kind of conversation is going to come up? So on one hand, people say better not to have guests. Why? Because you know what you're able to say, what your kids are able to say. You don't bring up topics that shouldn't be brought up in general. By other people there, you know, they don't think about what they say. Right? They don't really care what they say in general. So someone just coming into Judaism where you want to try and draw them close. Some people will say, why invite them? So it's obvious. You want to try and draw them close. The power of Shabbos. Okay. Well, what about what they might say? So they're going to say, I have to worry about that. That's my obligation. Well, you got to protect your kids. You may be able to handle it. Your spouse may be able to handle it. Yeah. But your kids not. So one line of thought is, no, be more insular. Have people that think more like you, that are holding different places. Well, someone will say, so that's one side. That's one side of the argument. The other side of the argument is, okay, you have to try and control the conversation. You want to make sure there are certain things not talked about, right? Certainly, and you can just say, well, it's not appropriate, whatever. Try and change the subject. But it's good for kids to see. The other side will say. They'll see people grappling with real issues. They don't just take it for granted that they grew up in FFP from birth, religious from birth. They won't take it for granted. At the same time, having guests is an important thing. Learn from Abraham. But the question is, to what extent? That's the question. So the people involved in outreach will say, invite them for Shabbos, what's the problem? And if they speak about things maybe not so appropriate, change the subject. Just say, these are things we don't speak about. And then you speak privately to your kids. But there's a huge gain over here. It's a gain for the people having them. Certainly showing the family about Achnasas Orchim, having guests. At the same time, you let Shabbos do what Shabbos does. Someone will say, they might ask something we don't know. Good. Shows we're human. Shows we don't necessarily know everything. So you can tell them, it's a good question. Let me look it up. Let me get back to you. Yeah, we shouldn't be afraid of questions. Obviously, you got to see where the question's coming from, but if it's a legitimate question, why not? We don't always have the right answers or answers in general. So we tell them. It's not a cop out. You say, I don't know, I'm not sure. It's a good question. Someone asked the other day an interesting question. Someone asked Moses' father, Amram, what do we know about it? What do we hear about it? We know that he married, Bas Levi. We know he had children, 3 children, Moshe, Aaron, and Miriam. We know, Rashi says, first of all, Amram was the Gadol Hador, greatest of that generation. One of the 4 or 5 people that only died because of the sin of Adam and Eve. So what did he do? He separated from his wife. Why did he separate from his wife? Why should being children of the world just to die? But the Egyptians are going to kill them. So his daughter Miriam says, your decree is worse than Pharaoh. Pharaoh decreed on children, on boys, that he was going to kill. So you're not going to have children. So your decree is worse. Because you're even, if you're not going to have children, you won't have girls either. So Amram thought about it. He was right. She was right. And he went back and took his wife. And he got remarried. That's one thing we know. Right? We mentioned before, he only died because of the sin of Adam and Eve. He didn't sin. His whole life he didn't sin. One of the few people, right, in the history of man that never sinned. Okay. What else do we know? Do we know where he's buried? No. Do we know anything else he did? Someone asked me this question. I still haven't done my research. I don't know. A lot of things, could be a lot of midrashim about him. I'm not a world expert in midrashim by any stretch. But it could be there's a lot in other sources. Okay? I mean, you have to know everything. We have an obligation to learn as much as we can. Well, if someone calls you on something you don't know, you say you don't know. Better to say you don't know than to give a bad answer. Sometimes we run into the problem we think we have an obligation to answer. We always have an obligation to say something. Right? Not true. Right? Whoever my Rebbe should be well. Better to say I don't know. Better to say I don't know than give a bad answer. I once asked him something and he said, I'm not really sure. Could be like this, could be like that, could be like the other thing. So I'm stringent. in this case, whatever it was. Then I asked him a second time. Right, short time after, I asked him again. He said, I'm not really sure. There's that. I do this because I'm stringent. Okay. A few minutes later, don't do this. I don't recommend people doing this, but I wanted an answer. I said, so what? So, but what's the answer? And he said, I'm not sure. So he said in the name of the Brisker Rav, one of the Torah giants, the last generation of Yisrael Zev Soloveitchik, of blessed memory, the son of Rav Chaim Brisker. And he said in the name of the Brisker Rav, it's better to say, I don't know, than to give a bad answer. Rabbi looked at me and said, you say in my name. You say in my name. Moshe Stormach said, I don't know. Now he knows everything. Got everything in the back of his head. He's the Torah giant of the generation. But he said, say in my name, I don't know. So 5 minutes later, again, don't do this. But 5 minutes later, I looked over to him and said, I don't know, don't ask. I said, how'd you know? How'd you know I was going to open my mouth? He goes, you look like it. You look like you're about to say it. He's right. He knows me well. Yeah. But he said, I don't know. And there are times you have to say, I don't know. Because we don't know everything. Probably a lot of things we don't know. That's not a lack in the Torah, it's a lack in us. But a person should never be afraid to say, I don't know. This is one of the things my Rebbe taught me. First of all, think before you answer. Don't just blurt out an answer. Think. Right, I asked him something, a more difficult question, which I thought was pretty easy. I thought it was a pretty easy answer. It was one of the more difficult questions he told me. But he asked me, okay, what do you think? He said, what would you say in this situation? So he gave me an opportunity to answer. So I gave him my answer. I gave my answer. And he stopped me mid-sentence and I didn't ask you to give an answer. I want you to think. Think it through. Don't just blurt out an answer. Unless you really know what the answer is. He tricked me. He said, so what do you think about this? He didn't want an answer. I thought he wanted an answer. We're looking for an answer. He wanted to say, unless you're 100% sure, think before you speak. So it's good to say, I don't know. There's a rabbi, I forget who it was, that was interviewing for a position, and he was there for Shabbos. Someone asked him a question. I said, wow, it's a very good question. It's like, I don't know. Someone later asked him another question. He said the same thing. Now, this rabbi, one of the Torah giants of generation, had an answer. He never had what to answer them. But the committee asked him, said, you're interviewing for this position. They ask you some questions you can't answer. So how can you not answer? And what was his Rav's answer? I said, I want people to understand. We don't know everything. Right? It's very hard to know everything. There are things, if you're not sure, you say, I don't know. That's humility. He was teaching them a lesson. Because again, what do we think? We think someone asks a question. Yeah, give the first thing that comes off the top of our head. If you know the answer, very good. If you're not sure about the answer, you have to say, I don't know. I'm not sure. That's not a cop-out. See, some people think, let's say by secular Jew or others, they'll say, see, he doesn't have an answer. See, the Torah doesn't have an answer. See, they don't throw out cream puff questions. They want to make us fidget, right? They want to make us uncomfortable, right? They'll ask the question, why do bad things happen to good people? Where was God during the Holocaust? It's a good question. And usually the question's better than the answer. We have, we give these long-winded answers. You have to see where the soul came from, and we have to go through it. We have a lot of different things. But at the end of the day, do we really know? No. Can we really say 100% we know? 100%? Yeah, I thought someone asked, we're going to deal with this in the Q&A. Someone heard a rabbi on YouTube say you can't know something 100% to be true. Right? There's always some sort of doubt. So you always have some sort of doubt about Judaism. Yeah, I'll probably deal with that in the Q&A. Not a bad question. We don't have doubts in Judaism. Right? I'm not going to answer it. But I'm going to say, someone came to one of the rabbis and said, according to your Torah, right? It says in Exodus chapter 23, verse 2, you have to go according to the majority. Yeah, we're the majority. Christians are the majority, let's say. So how come you don't go like us? You go against your own Torah. So what does Rabbi answer? The Rabbi answered, when what's that talking about? That you go after the majority when you have a doubt. He said, by us, we don't have any doubts. We have no doubt. We have no doubt that God created the world. We have no doubt that the Torah is true. We don't have any doubts about science, and the universe being, quote unquote, 5 billion years old or more. We got to say, but how can you know everything for sure? Right? Can I say I'm not sure about Judaism? And keeping mitzvahs. That would seem to be a problem. That's like someone who's agnostic says, well, I'm not sure there's a God. Okay. So let me ask, if you're not sure about there's God, so what do you keep? What do you do? If you're a Jew, that's a problem. If you're a Jew, you got to keep all the mitzvahs, whatever applies today. Less than half of the mitzvahs we can do. Then you got an obligation, nothing to talk about. Well, I'm not really sure. So I would say, if you're not really sure, why you keep anything? Well, on the other hand, I see if I don't keep it, I'm going to get punished. Yeah, catch 22. Fear, which we always say, you need fear. That's what kept the Christians together. Fear about believing in JC. You don't believe in JC, fry now forever. But what about doubts? We're allowed to have doubts. Didn't I say I wasn't going to deal with this? Can we get to the Q&A? What about doubts? Do we have any doubts? Deep down. Do we have any doubts? No. Do we know things for a fact 100%? That's a good question. That's a very good question. Do we know something is absolute? You say, well, maybe the Torah, God forbid, is a bunch of fairy tales. How do you know it's true? Well, one of the 13 principles is you got to bring the prophecy of Moses. Moses, the greatest of all prophets. Why is he the greatest? Because God said he is. And how do we know? Because God spoke to us at Mount Sinai, passed it down to Moshe, passed it down to us. Someone will say, but how do I know that to be true? There are a lot of proofs. There are a lot of proofs, but I would say like this. The book of Exodus, a lot of it has to do with the Jews being in Egypt. Now that's been proven. For the most part, it's been proven. Through papyrus and through other things. That the Jews were there. Now, if that's true, that gives validity to, let's say, 20% of the Torah. Yeah, that's a significant thing. Right? Book of Exodus. They're in the desert. They were in Egypt, they were in the desert. So we could assume they came out of the desert, God spoke to them and started giving them commandments, and you have a whole thing about building a Mishkan. I could probably assume they went hand in hand. We also have information about the Mishkan. That's all been proven, different things. Okay. So I got the whole book, let's say. I got 20%. Now, I would say you have to evaluate evidence. So if I have 20%, I can prove 100% it's true. That I can prove it's fact. What about the 80%? What about the other 80%? Will someone say the other 80% doesn't matter if I can prove it 100% or not? All right, what does it matter? I have 20% clear-cut evidence. 20% clear-cut, straight. Yeah. Do I need the other 80%? So I had an 18-year-old kid once tell me, 19-year-old kid once tell me, I used to tutor one night a week at Hebrew University for college students, English-speaking college students. One night a week, this guy asked me, or this guy tells me, sorry. This guy says, you can prove 90% of the Torah is true, but I still have my 1% free will. Now that's kind of a strange thing. Why? Because if I can prove 99% it's true, you still have free will to say it's not true. That is true. Yeah. But if I can tell you, every time I play the game roulette, and I know 99% of the time when that ball is spun, it's going to hit black 13. I'm going to be a very wealthy person. Very wealthy person. I would tell you, even if it's 60%, I'd be a wealthy person. 51%, I'd probably do very well. So I told this person, I said, "Do you ever write a term paper?" He said, "Yeah." I had to write a lot of them in college because I was a history major. So I said, "So what do you do in a term paper?" He says, I take a topic, whatever it is, and I try and prove it. Right? I try and prove it. So I said, great. So you have a thesis. You spend the whole paper trying to prove it, however long. And then what do you do after that? It says, oh, then you make a conclusion. I said, would you ever leave the conclusion in doubt? Would you ever say, well, I'm not really sure, I saw some other evidence, maybe it contradicts? Would you ever leave that in doubt? So he said, no, of course not. Why not? Because if I do that, my professor will fail me. Oh, why? Good point. Why would that happen? Because you're there to prove a point. You're there to evaluate evidence. So if you have all this evidence, you leave it in doubt and contradictory things, you're going to fail. Very good. I said, you hear what you're saying? You evaluate evidence. So you just said if you can prove it 99%, you're evaluating evidence. Where does the 1% free will come in? Where's the 1% to tell me, well, I can choose not to? Yeah, you could. I think you'd be a fool for doing so. But yet, you always have an out. The evil inclination will always give you an out. But this is not rational. So Kaufman would say, even if I could prove it 60%, I have a very strong case. Because the other 40%, even if you don't prove it, you don't have concrete proof, I got 60%. Think about it. I got at least 2.5 books of the Bible that can be proven. More. Right? Almost 3. Right? Almost 3 I can prove, let's say. So if the other 2, I don't necessarily have concrete proof, is that going to matter? It's a good question. Right? Would that matter? So again, what would I say? So I would say, if I have enough evidence to show it's true, the other evidence I may find, I may not find, that's irrelevant. Why is it irrelevant? Because I have enough evidence here. I have enough evidence. If I have enough evidence, what's the problem? Why wouldn't I be able to prove it otherwise? So I'm going to take it further. What if I had 20% proof? 20% proof in terms of the Bible means 1 out of 5. 1 out of the 5 books I could prove. Let's say the book of Exodus. Make it easy. The book of Exodus, I could prove 100% it's true. And it's the absolute word of God. That, let's say, is a given. What about the other 4 books? If I can show that's the absolute word of God, unless I have really strong evidence to show that the other books are not, why would I necessarily assume that? In other words, if I have clear-cut proof for 20%, the other 80%, I don't have clear-cut proof, but it's not out of the realm of reality. It's true. So why would I just throw it and say, no, the whole thing's not true? But you proved 20%. 20%, you prove beyond the shadow of a doubt there's a God who created the world. He did this. And the Jewish people were there. So that's huge. So on the one hand, you can say, like I would say, I got 20% proof. The other 80% doesn't mean we won't find it. Doesn't mean it's not there. But if you don't have a really strong argument why it shouldn't be true, why should I assume it's not true? That would be my question. But what's the other side going to say? What's the obvious thing they're going to say? They're going to say, okay, maybe you've proven this. What about all these other things that don't seem to make sense or you don't have to have proof for? Who's to say it all came from God? Maybe the other 4 books, man wrote it, this and that. They had a whole committee, and who knows, whatever it is. Maybe that's true. They can argue that. But see, you'd have to say, I need evidence here. I need strong evidence to show why it may not be true. I would even go as far to say, this might be a moot point, but I'll say it anyway. Even less than 20%. If I could prove some things in the Torah that are 100% true and no one can dispute, that's a huge thing. Because then I would say, if this is true, now again, people are going to say it's a big assumption here. But in theory, you could say, well, if this is true, shouldn't the other part be true? The onus is on the other person to prove it's not true. Because I could easily say, I got 10%, 15% that I can show black and white it's true. Okay. I need the other 90%. Why do I need the other 90%? People say, oh, it's a leap of faith, this and that. But if this is true, why can't I assume this is true? Why do I have to assume it's false? See, we need to work on our emunah, that's for sure. 100%. We have to work on our belief and faith in God. But at the end of the day, people have doubts. If they have doubts, they ain't keeping Torah mitzvahs. It could be peer pressure, it could be other things, whatever it is. But if they have doubts about major tenets in Judaism, they're not going to keep it. They'll keep what appeals to them. But essentially, they're not going to keep it. Right? So that'll be my answer. I mean, maybe flush it out a little bit more this week. Yeah. But it's okay to have some sort of doubts. Now, there are other things we don't know. There are plenty of things we don't know. This question of why bad things happen to good people, why righteous people suffer, why evil people have it easy. Do we have a concrete answer? No. I'm not saying there's not an answer. What are the things we don't know? We don't know. We're not supposed to know, per se. We have to learn about it. We have to try and understand it. There's no question. But that's not the question over here. The question is, am I allowed to have doubts? So again, I'll ask a question with the question. It's what rabbis do. If you have a doubt, how strong is the doubt going to stop you from keeping Torah mitzvahs? See, if a lot of other things make sense, and you quote unquote buy into the system, then this doubt shouldn't matter. Okay, so I have a doubt. I'm not sure. Okay, what does that change? What changes over here? A person can say, I saw a parent, grandparent, whoever suffered tremendously, and if God is all good, how could this be? It's a good question. It's not it's an old question. It's not a new question here. And that could hinder than keeping any Torah mitzvah. Someone who got embarrassed, by a Rebbe in school or by the head of a yeshiva or whatever, got embarrassed in front of everyone. And they said, that's it, I'm done with Judaism. Okay, they're going to pay a price for sure, certain level. No one likes to be embarrassed, that's for sure. And that rabbi, head of the yeshiva, whatever, is going to pay a serious price for what they did. But at the same time, we go through all kinds of things, which we always speak about. We have to answer for our actions. But a person's going, I had it hard, this happened, that happened. So if someone in a power position, a rabbi, head of yeshiva, did something terribly wrong, what can a person say? I'm not saying it's right, but what can a person say? He's supposed to represent Torah. He's supposed to be the ultimate representative of Torah. And he messed up in a serious way. So how are we supposed to look at Torah leaders? That's a problem. There are people who've done things they shouldn't have done in a serious way. But see, there's one major thing, though, that people don't remember. And again, none of this should happen to any of us. But there's one thing people forget, and that is people are human. I'm not making excuses. People are human. Now, because they're human, they have an evil inclination, they do terrible things, let's say. Even as a position of power. That does not mean the Torah is bad. That's not what it means. A friend of my father's, many years ago once told me, say, when I went to Cheder, I went to a Jewish school and the Rebbe hit me, whatever. And that's what Judaism is. I don't have anything to do with it. Yeah, and the person kept saying the same thing over and over again, like a parrot. So I asked him, I said, you're right. No one should be hit. I agree. Maybe the Rebbe had a bad day. Maybe. Maybe he's going through other things, took it out on you. Again, I'm not defending it. But the person parroted the same thing. If that's what if that's what Judaism is, but it's not. He had a bad Rebbe, okay? Imagine someone 10 years old, 10 years old in school, public school, has a bad teacher. Let's agree, teacher was bad. What's this kid's gonna say? That's it. No more education. We don't need no education, right? Pink Floyd. We're gonna throw that out there. He says, "Oh, that's it. I'm gonna go get a job." I heard what Barrow Wine once say. Should be well. What? You're gonna go out and get a job? 10 years old? Forget about education? Okay, the person may need therapy, other things to deal with it. Fine. Everyone agrees the teacher was bad. Fine. Can cause serious problems. Okay. Could cause, someone to have no self-esteem, to do other things. It could. Question is, how much is that person going to be liable? That's a whole nother discussion. The person who did it 100%, they embarrassed someone, they did this, they're liable. That's for sure liable. But if that kid now, because of what happened, and he decides he's not going to keep Torah mitzvahs anymore, what's that level of liability? That's a good question. That's a serious question. Are we going to say regardless of what happened, he doesn't keep Torah or mitzvahs, and he spits in God's face. Is that because, that's because of what happened? Is he liable or not? We could ask the question, take it one step further. What about anyone who survived the Holocaust? And they saw their family killed right in front of their face and murdered and tortured and this and that. And they didn't keep Torah and mitzvahs afterward. Can we blame them? Can't blame them. It's not right, but we can't blame them. I heard someone came to one of the Rebbes once, asking for a blessing. He said, "You see that person over there? He's got a tattoo on his arm and he's still keeping Torah and mitzvahs. Go to ask him a blessing. Don't come to me. Go to that person." Why? Because if anyone can go through the horrors that he went through, and he survived with his mind intact and he's keeping Torah and mitzvahs, this person's on a very high level. That's not to say other people who couldn't, you flush them, you say, oh, they're going to fry in hell forever anyway, look what happened to them. Right? There's a very serious question there. If a person saw these horrors in front of their face, there's an obvious question. What in the world's God doing here? Why is there so much severe punishment? What did I do? So much, even though they survived miraculously. What did I do? My whole family killed, destroyed, whole village gone. They're alone in the world. And after that, people hit their Judaism. They remarried, started families, but they didn't tell their kids were Jewish because they didn't want them to go through the same horrors they went through. So now the question is, can we blame them? It's not for us to judge. God will judge it how every judge is in. Yeah, but simple explanation is we can't expect anything. How can we expect someone who saw these horrors to keep their emunah intact? It's a hard thing. Very, very hard thing. We can't judge that. At the same time, is there any liability for such a person? Yeah, we'll leave it open. God will be the ultimate judge. God will be the ultimate judge. But we can't make excuses. That's the point. We could say this bad thing happened, this other thing happened, and you're right. As we always say, there are things we go through that are bad. Whether we did it ourselves, we're being tested, it has to be with our soul, reincarnation, all that, okay. All these things combined. And woe to us if God would show us, you did it to yourself. You had it coming. Let's say. You want to hear that? I don't think anyone wants to hear that. But at the same time, the question is, okay, we're in this world to be tested. We're in this world to work hard, to strive, to toil. That's what we're here for. Sometimes the test is easier, sometimes the test is harder. The question is how we deal with it. Now, back to the original topic here. All right, I see a bunch of questions. I'll deal with them shortly. Back to the original topic. Our wicked friends. We think we have the ability to change others. Maybe we do. But if a person hangs out with the wrong people, he may have the best intentions in general, but they're not good for Torah mitzvahs. How can you hang out with them? Some people think, as we mentioned before, mistakenly think, we're going to be able to hang around with the same people and not expect that they're going to have an influence on this. That is wrong. That 100% is wrong. Because the obvious question on that is that person good? Let's say the person's a good person, quote unquote. Yeah, what's the definition of being good? There's a serious problem here. Because they don't cheat on their taxes, that means they're good. Because they don't cheat on their spouse, they're good. What about all the lashon hara they speak? What about all the nivel peh, all the the fact that they curse like a fish. What about the facts? I mean, the list goes on. They don't keep Shabbos in public, right? Or in private. Yeah. And many other mitzvahs they don't do. Are they considered good? In whose eyes? The only eyes we care about is God. We don't care what other people think. Right? It's not a popularity contest. We don't care what other people think. We care what God thinks. We care how this affects our relationship to Him. And if we're not doing what we're supposed to do, guess what? We're in trouble. So we have to own up and say, I'm not saying 100% is going to happen, but it probably will. And that is, these people do not share our values. Now, the question is, how anti or how against us are they? Some will be more, some might be less. But the bottom line is, their influence can have an effect. 100%. And that is why most people in this process, whether it's about tshuva, coming back to Judaism, or somebody who is coming out of idolatry, Christianity, whatever, what's going to happen? Not that I'm cursing anyone or that it should happen. What's going to happen? A lot of these friends and family probably going to go by the wayside. It'd be like live and let live. Maybe have superficial conversations. That's probably about it. I'm not saying 100% that's going to be the case, right? Maybe families will come back, friends will, want to hear what you have to say, but most likely not. Why not? They don't want to be told what to do. They don't want to hear holier than thou because you were just like them. So they're going to have a negative influence on you. And not only that, they're going to put a lot of peer pressure. That's what they're going to do. They are going to try and convince you to be like that. Right, the story I've told many times without knowing all the details or many of the details. The person became religious, was in Israel for a number of years, went back to the States for whatever reason, didn't have a community or a rabbi or who knows what. And there was so much pressure from parents and, and family, and friends to go back to their old life. That's what they ended up doing. Now, why was that? Because they claimed, and again, I don't know any of the details. So again, you just take the story, with a grain of salt, but they claim God put me in a situation impossible to overcome. Now, we don't believe that. Situation may be hard, they may be seemingly impossible. But God doesn't put you in a position you're going to fail. Because obviously God believes you can come out of it. And you can fight against it. He believes you have that intestinal fortitude to do it. You tell me it's so hard, and you're right. We're not necessarily giving easy tests. And the tests that we pass they get more difficult in different ways. It's always good. You pass one thing and then you get something that's 10 times harder. But that's this world. We're here to be tested. God wants us to be the best we can be. But if you're going down the wrong path, even though you're trying to do the right thing, and other people are going to drag you down, so to speak, you will change for the worse. Your resolve will become weaker. Now, some people may say, praise me, and say, no. I'm only going to become stronger from it. And I hope they're right. Because if I'm right, they're in trouble. It's a very slippery slope. It's very easy to fall back into your old life. Now, some people would say, not true, I gave it up. I'm done with that life. I don't have anything to do with it. Okay. I'm just saying it's very easy to backslide. Very, very easy. But again, what do we think? We think at the beginning, we're going to have all the power. We're going to have the ability to influence them. And we're going to try and show them and try and teach them. And, when you get knocked around a little bit and they don't want to hear and they say, they tell you things, listen, you think you know better, you're holier than that, you're this, you're that. You get put in your place. or they like necessarily to get put in their place. So maybe they try harder, this and that. But what eventually happens is, or can happen, is that they start saying, yeah, maybe they're right. Maybe I'll just do a little bit like they do. I want to keep these friendships because it's hard to be alone. It's hard to try and make new friendships. Yeah, that's true. That 100% is true. But at the end of the day, you want to be around people that think like you do. You want to be in a community that people are doing the things like you do. Some more, some less, whatever it is. Yeah. It's like you, a person will say the same thing. I'm only going to hang out with people that think like me or similar to me. They're just as close-minded as we are. Even though they say we're so open-minded and this. No. Yeah, why don't you hang out with more Orthodox Jews? Oh, I wouldn't do that. It's a cult. It's it. Yeah, they'll throw out all kinds of things that are not true. Totally not true. Okay. Now, we're not claiming to be open-minded. We don't need to be open-minded. We need to do what the Torah tells us. But they're going to claim to be open-minded, but it's not true. Totally not true. If they were, they'd like to hear what we have to say. They don't want. Now, why don't they want? Very simple. Because we're telling them what they do is wrong and they have to change. They don't want to. They want to be left alone. They're not interested in being forced to do something. They, oh, you have to do this or that. They don't want. They want to give in to whatever desires they have and do whatever they want. So bottom line is, they could change you for the worse. And in such a situation, you're going to be extremely careful. Extremely careful. Yeah, hanging around with the same people. That used to. I had this problem. When I came to Israel, and I had all these friends that were not conducive to who I wanted to be and where I wanted to go. It was hard. Extremely hard. But at the same time, you got to realize where you need to go, what you need to do. And these type of things can go by the wayside. You can say, oh, we didn't change, you changed. Okay, they can say all kinds of things, but you don't have the same values. The values are not the same at all. So again, in theory, how could you hang out with someone that just speaks Lashon Hara left and right? How could you hang out with someone that just curse left and right? You say, what do I do? I got family, this. Okay, try and minimize things. Whatever, some things you're not in control of. Someone I saw recently, middle conversations, cursed a few times. They didn't think anything of it. Now, in the States, people said certain things. They didn't think anything of it. Yeah, should have I rebuked? Yeah, it's a good question. But at the end of the day, it's what people do. So the one thing I'll tell you, I was thinking in my mind, in the back of my mind was, wow, they God don't speak like this. They God I'm not like that. I don't have that mentality. Again, it's not pleasant to hear. But I was like, thank God I'm not that way. I've learned a lot over the years. But, when we hear people talk, that's already a level here. People think, how do I know if I'm growing or not? If you're sensitive to that, that means you're growing. That means you're growing spiritually. It's a huge thing. If someone curse doesn't affect them, then they're desensitized. And a lot of things, unfortunately, we may be desensitized to. But in this case, being desensitized to that is good. Hear someone speak Lashon Hara. Also, I can't believe people say that. Why should they say that? This, that. It's true. So now you want to hang around people like that? That's how they speak and that's what they do. And they go to forbidden places and all kinds of things. We're not forced to do that. But we might feel like we have to because we still want to have a connection, this and that. Okay, but, you get to a point where there's certain things you just can't do anymore. You just can't do. That's it. So, going to a non-kosher restaurant, that's a good example. Can't do it. Yeah, I'm not talking about before conversion. After conversion. Yeah, you can't do it. So if you can't do it, is it going to make a rift? Yeah. So come on, just come with us. Fine, you don't have to eat anything there. You can just drink water. Now, let's say that would be okay. You're in an environment that's not okay. Or they come on, we're just going to hang out at a pub or whatever. Like, what's the big deal? What do you mean? It's not a place a Jew should be. It's probably not a place an non-Jew should be either. If they go by the no-hide laws. Now, someone will ask, is that really forbidden? No. I would think the moral imperative could lead to all kinds of terrible things. No question. But as one of the no-hide laws, no. Yeah, see, there are a bunch of questions here. Let's see. Is it arrogance when you don't want to talk to someone who yells at you? No. It's not arrogance. Definitely not arrogance. First of all, no one wants to get yelled at, especially even if it's a parent. The best thing, because you have to be somewhat respectful. Yeah. Even if you're having a conversation, but at the end, what are you going to do? You walk away. That's not arrogant. Right? That's probably a smart thing to do if you're not going to get anywhere. And it's going to continue to scream at you. Yeah, that's definitely not arrogance. If it's a family member. Even if it's a parent. Or even, God forbid, whatever. It's a child, it's a sibling, a brother or sister. It could be an aunt, could be an uncle, could be, who wants to be on the end receiving that. Yeah, you got to be careful what you say. You're being yelled at, but you still have to be careful. You still have to be careful. The number of things wasn't really by. No, I actually had somebody I spoke to when I was in the States. Someone made a comment. Really below the belt comment a little bit. They said, well, this person, wants to go to Israel, but, I'm against them going to Israel because I don't want them to be like you. I don't want to lose them like we lost you. Okay, that's out of concern, it's out of love. That's where it's coming from. But you know what that says? That says they're racist against the Orthodox Jews. They don't want to become brainwashed like you. Live in this black hat community and be a fanatic like you. They didn't say it outright, but that's what they meant. 100%, that's what they meant. Not even a question. Not even a question. I didn't even answer it. What relative? Didn't even answer. I let them vent. They vented. Okay. I could have given a cute answer. This, that. It wasn't even worth it. Was not even worth it. Yeah. That's a biased statement. The racist statement. That's what it is. They'll never admit it. They don't think it's racist. But that's a racist statement. We don't want people to be with fanatics like you. We don't like fanatics, i.e., we don't like Orthodox Jews. Yeah. And what if I say, I think secular Jews smell? And they're bad in hygiene. That I get flattened like a pen. Who are you to say that? You're holier than thou. What do you mean? You single Orthodox Jews that make statements, what does that make you? It makes you a racist. Jews are racist also. I'm not saying against blacks, Chinese, and maybe racist against them also. Yeah. I'm talking about their own people. Their own people they're racist against. I read an article earlier, and someone made a comment. I don't know, I just saw in the news that there's a ceasefire now with all these missiles or whatever. Hopefully it'll be true. But someone made a comment about it's too bad like these missiles don't hit Orthodox communities. Nobody said anything. Nobody said boo. Boo! They didn't say. In other words, if the Arabs had better aim, quote unquote, let them aim at Orthodox communities. Let them wipe us out. Secular Jew says this. Yeah. I'm not going to get into what's behind this animosity, secular Jews and Orthodox Jews, why they hate us so much and different things. But nobody says anything. Nobody says anything in the news. That's a problem. That's a serious problem. Roberto Wine once said, if you hear how secular media speaks about Orthodox Jews, call us parasites and all kinds of things, that they would, take out the word ultra-Orthodox, and put in Arab. There would have been an uprising here years ago. They get away with saying whatever they want. We open our mouths, we're like, you see the police show up at your door. Yeah, nobody makes a statement. No one says anything about such a racist statement by a Jew against a Jew. They can say such a thing and no one says boo. Yeah, is that surprising to me? No, not surprising. They'll say it's because you're fault, because it's what they think, and you're parasites, and you're to the army, you don't take responsibility. They'll bring up all these other issues. It's irrelevant. It's irrelevant. They're saying Orthodox Jews should die. Orthodox Jews should be killed. We don't say secular Jews should be killed. We don't even say secular women should have all their heads shaved. And wear burqas. We're not, we want to be left alone. We want to live the Torah the way it should be. But they hate Orthodox Jews because of what we represent. Because we make them feel guilty. Because they're not doing what they're supposed to do and all that. But again, that is such a racist statement someone makes and no one in the media says nothing. Nothing. Yeah, it's horrific. Absolutely horrific. Is it surprising? No. It's like the secular Jews said to me. They would have said it to my face. They wouldn't have been embarrassed to say it to my face. I didn't see them. They said it over the phone. I don't want them to be like you. I don't want them to get lost there like you. What does that tell you? What does that tell you? I've been brainwashed. Thank God. I think everyone needs to have their brain squeegeed a little bit. Yeah. But they're saying, I don't like Orthodox Jews. But I had someone else tell me that actually to my face. They weren't embarrassed to say that. It's too fanatical. It's too, I'm saying it over the phone. Okay. But again, if the role was reversed and I started making blatant statements, and it'd be very easy to do against secular Jews and call a bunch of leftists and this and all the things that, quote unquote, they represent, they think is good and blah, 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 and just slam it left and right. Yeah. What would they say? Say you're a fanatic. They say you're backwards. They'll say all kinds of, very strong language. Maybe they'll even say you just hate secular Jews who don't think like you. You're a racist. Yeah. But when the other side does it, that's not racist. Totally not racist. That's my opinion. You're on the counts. You've been brainwashed. I don't want my grandkids to have contact with that. I don't have to come in contact, it's like saying you smell. I don't want to have anything to do with you. I remember, same person made a comment years ago, many years ago. Yeah, cousins of mine were here. They're here for a bar mitzvah or a bat mitzvah, whatever. We're having a whole conversation. And the person says, don't convert them. So I said, I can't. I said, why not? I said, because I'm speaking about basketball. Speaking about sports. What are they afraid of? I might throw in a little bit of Judaism, convince them to be like me. How have I? How have I? They would. What are they afraid of? But see, they're not going to say that's racist. Of course it's not racist. Yeah. So, again, even if it's a parent, a sibling, a child, whoever, and they start yelling and screaming, whatever, you walk away or get out of the conversation, that's not arrogance. 100% that's not arrogance. Try and diffuse the situation if you can't. You never really speak to someone when they're angry. Mishna Pirke Avos, one day we'll get there. Or no, about 107, probably get there, and says, someone's angry, you don't speak to them until their anger subsides. That's not arrogance. That's good advice. It doesn't matter who it is. The problem is if it's a parent, you gotta be a little bit respectful. You gotta say, but a parent yells at you for no reason and they're making racist statements or this and that. You have to be respectful. I might not have to honor them. They're considered evil. Still, can't contradict them. You don't have to contradict them. You have to speak to them in a nice way. If they come, they want to smack you, you're allowed to stop. You're allowed to defend yourself. That's for sure. Right? Just because they're a parent doesn't mean they can do whatever they want. And psychological abuse or whatever is just as bad as hitting someone or worse. Right? But if they're yelling and screaming, again, they're going to say what the halacha is. You can't embarrass them, right? Can't embarrass them. You gotta be very careful, very, very careful. In these types of relationships. But walking away, 100% is not arrogant. 100% is not arrogant. Somebody asked, one second, let's see the other questions here. Someone asks, we're not supposed to cry on Shabbos. What if you do? Person's in pain. Oh, it's a good question. In other words, you're not allowed to mourn on Shabbos. But what if, that day, you had to bury a loved one. You're still in pain. Or even for the few days before, whatever. Or something happened. You're right. Not allowed to be sad on Shabbos. It's one of the reasons you shouldn't read Holocaust books on Shabbos or anything that's depressing. Shabbos is a time not to be depressed. And not to be sad. Not to cry. Yeah. Someone says, but you're not supposed to. You're right. You got to try and overcome that. And if a person did it, okay, they did it. What if you do? I think God's going to understand. You're overcome by emotion. Right? And again, I'm not playing God. I didn't play him on TV either. Right? But at the same time, if I were God, I can understand. Person's in a lot of pain. Doesn't whitewash it 100%. Person got to try and change their attitude, whatever. But, the person gets so severely punished because they cried on Shabbos? No, but they're in pain. We have to work hard even if we are in pain. 100% if we are in pain. We have to be very careful. Is it something we can do? Even the pain is too much. The only thing I can say is, there's a lot to thinking positive. But a person can say, I got so many negative things. So many negative things. This is bad, that's bad, the other thing's bad. And they all may be true. 100%, they all may be true. Right? I will tell you, though, and again, this is my advice, and that is, write down 20 things on a list of things that you're thankful for. If you have health, put that down. And even if you don't have such good health, but, you have other things you're thankful for. Now, even when a person's in pain, when you look at that list before you rip it up, right, or before you crumple it or whatever, there's a lot to be thankful for. It's a lot. I'll give you one example. Yeah, anyone goes to India, you see a lot of kids living on the streets, sleeping on the streets, malnutrition, other things. Well, that goes on the list. Thankfully, you don't have that. Yeah, you have a house or an apartment, even if it's not yours, doesn't matter. Right? You have shelter. You have clothing. It doesn't mean you live in the lap of luxury. It doesn't matter. You got food. You're not starving. Let's say you have health. These are huge things. Huge thing. Someone could say, that's not good enough. I'm still suffering like no tomorrow. Okay? I would think if a person thanks their lucky charms, whatever, that they have certain things, I think that overcomes a lot. I think, I'm not saying 100%, I'm not a psychologist, by any stretch. But I think that if a person changes their mentality, I think if they change their mentality and the way they think, and they start to learn to think positive when things are bad and gloomy and gray and dark, that can overcome a lot. Can it overcome everything? I'm not going to say that. I think it'll overcome a lot. I would say 80%. Now, a person has mental illness, different issue. Meaning medication, therapy, other things, okay. Yeah. But at the same time, positive thinking, realizing what my purpose in the world is, being thankful for what I have, not when I don't have it. These are huge things. These are huge things. Now, does that mean it overcomes everything? No, I'm not going to go that far. But I think it can overcome a lot. Someone here says, I've been going from test, I shouldn't laugh, but it's ironic. Now, test to test since birth, okay. One different things, next worse than the prior. Okay. There's a light at the end of the tunnel at some point. Yeah. I had an odyssey that went on for, I don't know, let's see, 19 years. I had a certain level of closure, but I wish I would have lived this when it happens. Because if I would have lived it, it would have taken the edge off in so many different ways. So many different ways. And the reality is, that would have answered everything. But it would have changed my whole outlook on things. Now, I wasn't bitter when things happened. But I could have been. I did have proper outlook, but other things could have changed in a major way if I would have thought in other ways. If I would have kept imbuing this in my head, day in and day out, thankful for what you have. You got food, your kids are doing the right thing. This, all kinds of things. Okay, this is hard, that's hard, the other, you're right. There are 20 things hard. When I got hit, I got slammed all over the place. And people said, you should have done this, should have done that. It was the Monday morning quarterback. No empathy, very little empathy. It's very hard test. It's been a test for 19 years. Other people say I've had tests for 40 years. Okay. Everyone, whatever they have. But I'm telling you, if I would have looked at things the way I'm speaking now, it would have been totally different. Totally different. Yeah, but okay. You learn things later. You put things into practice later. Fine. Doesn't mean life is easy by any stretch. Does not mean that. And not only that, it's not always bad either. We look at it as everything, one thing to the next is bad, bad, bad. True. There might be a lot of bad things. A lot of hard things to deal with. A lot of hard things to swallow. True. 100% true. But in the bigger scheme of things, it's not as bad as we think. You're going to say, you could lose everything. You can almost be on the street. You're right. Things are bad. Go from riches to rags overnight. That's bad. And all the embarrassment that goes with it. Then you can't pay bills. You got creditors coming. Right? That's why a lot of people commit suicide during COVID. Businesses couldn't survive. First time in their lives, they're having difficulty. Embarrassment. They couldn't pay suppliers, this, that. They killed themselves. Embarrassment. Because he's got shut down. Is that what God wants? No. You can say it's a very hard test. Okay. Sure, it's a hard test. Because it snowballs. It's not just one thing. It goes into so many different aspects. But how do you stay sane? The way you stay sane is the way you learn. The way you change your mentality. That's how you stay sane. And you realize there's no such thing as chance happenings here. And you're like, okay, God's doing this for a reason, whatever the reason is. And you pray God should take it away. And God should help you. And the mantra is God's the one in charge. That's the mantra. You're going to say, but it can be really bad. You're right. I'm not denying that. It can be really bad. You don't want to get out of bed. You're right. But you got to function. God doesn't want you to die. He doesn't want you to just, stick your head in the sand like an ostrich. He wants you to get out, and still serve him, even though he did it, even though he caused it. Or you caused it yourself and he just did it, whatever. He just looked the other way. and allowed it to happen. Okay, whatever it is, doesn't matter. Like someone said, all the people you helped, do you have any regret? And if I would have said yes, would have lost all the mitzvahs. All the mitzvahs. What, I'm going to spit in God's face for all the good? And then say, no, it's all not worth it? Lose everything. Did I understand why? No. Am I ever going to understand? Maybe not. Doesn't matter. Who am I today? Because of it, I'm a different person, wholly different person. You see, that's where the question comes in. Isn't it true? You can have doubts. I didn't have any doubts. Those weren't my questions at all. You don't spit in God's face for the good that he gives you. But we don't see it as good. We see I'm going through this, I'm going through that. What about the good I have? What about all the good things? And let's say you're in a position, you can go like this with your fingers, right? Anyone who can see. You go like this with your fingers, they don't hurt. No arthritis. Your brain works. Yeah. Your arms, your legs, rest of your body, plumbing works. We'll keep it clean. Yeah. Isn't that to be thankful for? That's enough to be thankful for. The human body works. Tell people chronic illness, how they feel on a regular basis. They can barely get out of bed. Their joints ache. They have chronic fatigue. They got things that they're always tired. Different things. So at least I don't have that. But you complain what you have. It's true. We all do. And we don't realize, again, these are words of wisdom. These are words of gold here. We don't realize what we have until we don't have it. You don't want to get to that position. Nobody wants to get to that position. But again, what's someone going to say? Life seems so unbearable. It's so hard. You're right. It's all a test. But what am I thankful for? What am I thankful for? Yeah. Someone that points out saying nothing some way means really saying yes. No, not necessarily. You're not saying anything. You walk away because you don't want to fuel the flames. So you walk away till they calm down. I'm not saying yes. I'm not agreeing with them. I mean, they say, see, you don't have anything to say. And whatever you say, you're going to get slammed. Totally slammed. Even if you say the right thing, doesn't matter. They don't want to hear it. When someone's angry, it's better not say anything. Better look like a fool in their eyes than say the wrong thing. 100%. But whatever you're going to say, they're going to listen when they're angry. Listen to what the Mishna Pirke Avos says. No, you don't speak to someone when they're angry. Yeah. So you don't say anything, not saying you agree. There is a Talmudic dictum, shtika ko dadam. If I'm quiet, that means it's like I agree. Yeah. So you can say, why doesn't this apply over here? Because you don't agree. You just wanted to diffuse the situation. Right? That's the difference. That's what I would say on that. Someone asked, for the process of conversion and have high awareness, does God look at you differently? Yeah. If you have higher knowledge, greater knowledge of God now, even in the process of conversion, you looked at it in a totally different way. If you were a potato farmer, growing up in Idaho, no offense, anyone's a potato farmer, or grew up in Idaho, regardless, if you have a higher awareness, you judge differently. Yeah, the Korban Aaron says in Leviticus chapter 10. Why did sons of Aaron die? Korban Aaron says, the Or Chaim HaKadosh brings them down. Korban Aaron says, the closer you are to God, you get burnt. You have a higher awareness. 100%. So if you have a higher awareness now, in the process of conversion, are you judged differently? Sure. You look at that totally different. If you're only a potato farmer in Idaho, you don't know any better, it's different. God looks at you totally different. Does hearing someone cursing affect your neshama? Ooh. Does it affect your soul? Good. I mean, it's not something you're in control of. Yeah. But keep in mind one thing. You see things, you hear things, it has an imprint, makes an imprint on the soul. So you're going to say, how do I fight that? It's not my fault. I heard someone curse. It's not my fault. So bottom line, you got to work hard. Just get it out of your system. Just say, what a terrible thing. Can't believe someone said that. I want to fight very hard, against it, not to make it imprint. That's what you have to do on a regular basis. To say that shouldn't affect me, right? It should affect me in a negative way. And I'm not going to speak like that. I can't believe people speak like that. I got to work on my emunah b'tachon in God. I have to work on my faith and belief. That's what I have to do, make myself stronger. But you already have a higher awareness. It's such a terrible thing. Yeah, that can uproot it. Totally uproot it, but it has an effect. Whatever we see has an effect. The soul, just like we're recording, the soul records it. A person could have seen something 20 years ago, 10 years ago, 5 years ago. It's still there. And for some reason, let's say a person thought about something, all of a sudden it brought it up. Why now? No idea. No idea. But why is it brought up now? I thought it was gone. It's not gone. Unfortunately, it's not gone. It's there. We remember things, images, all kinds of things. Yeah, that's harder to fight. Because now it's part of your system, but you bury it. You try and bury it with more and more and more Torah. That's how you bury it. Doesn't mean it's totally gone, but you work hard to get rid of it. Yeah, it's not an easy thing. What if you're crying not because you're sad, but you feel everything so deeply? That's all right. Let's say a person says Tehillim on Shabbos. Yeah, not everyone says you're allowed to say Tehillim on Shabbos. Most rabbinical authorities say you're allowed to. Regardless if that's true, if that's true, and let's say, you're learning something that brought you to tears. Something inspirational. Not even saying something sad. Yeah, so that's all right. Right? Because you felt so deeply. That's not a problem. Yeah, we're talking about someone being depressed or someone being upset or in a lot of pain. Here, if a person hears something, sees something, whatever it is, and it inspires them, but inspires them to such a point they're very emotional, that's okay. Right? That's not about depression, about pain. Right? That's something you're connecting on a very high spiritual level. Yeah, that's a different thing. And a person's overcome with emotion. We're not talking about that. Right? When a person's overcome with emotion, that's fine. We're talking about if a person's in pain. Right? And you don't have to be depressed or, thinking about pain on Shabbos. Now, sometimes it's not so easy. I'll give an example. Let's say a person got chronic pain. They're in chronic pain. How do they get in a good mood on Shabbos when they're in chronic pain? They can barely move. That's hard. Thank God I haven't had it, but that's hard. That's very hard. Or someone's sick on Shabbos, even better. Well, someone got a virus. They feel, they feel nauseous, can't keep anything down. They're always in the bathroom one way or another, right? We'll keep this clean. Yeah. You feel awful. Yeah. So can a person cry in pain because they feel sick? Yeah. That's what we're talking about. What about, if someone's in some other pain, some other type of pain or difficulty, or they just think spiral comes into Shabbos, you're like, how can I deal with this? How can I just put it out of my head? Out of my head. It's a hard thing. I agree. But you know what? Shabbos comes in, it's like everything, you don't care about anything else. Missiles flying all over the place. Friday we had a missile go over here, where I am, which hardly ever happens. Yeah. And it hit like 20 minutes away, not far. Not far. It's like late Friday morning. And I heard a siren. I'm like, you gotta be kidding. Like we don't get sirens here usually. Even if places in Jerusalem get hit, we don't, or whatever, the sirens there doesn't necessarily mean there's sirens here. So we're still 20 minutes away, half an hour away. But I'm thinking you gotta be kidding. Come on, really? It's a siren now? Went to my sealed room, wait 10 minutes. My wife said she heard the boom before even the siren went off. Yeah, it was like 20 minutes away in an open area. Fell in an open area, like 20 minutes away. Yeah, that kind of puts you on nerve, on edge a little bit. What happens if it's Shabbos? So I'm sitting in my sealed room, you can't see behind me, right? Got a few mattresses, some food, not food, some drinks, some pills, it could happen. Now I just made a ceasefire. I don't know if it's going to stick or whatever, but it's very rare if it happens. But yeah, it sort of changes the way you think a little bit now. Where you're going to go, what you're going to do. It's like crazy. You don't expect it. Okay, people in the South, happens all the time. Just thinking on the way going to synagogue yesterday. There must be don't know. There must be some decree on these communities living near the border. They're getting shellacked. Thousands of missiles. Yeah. So what they deserve to get all these missiles. And, a lot of times they don't do serious damage. But, you're living close. So you can say, well, they're living so close to the border. Okay, so they're in the line of fire. Okay. Right. According to nature, you could say that. But see, when places get hit in general, there's something going on. Not just random. We just said things are not random. I don't have an answer. I definitely don't have an answer. I have to ask my Rebbe on this one. Yeah. This must be some sort of decree on that place. People who live there have to live in fear. Why? I have no idea. It's not just they live so close. That's what you could say. Look, they live so close. So they're line of fire. So it's not their fault. That's, they're dealing with the Arabs or whatever. But, if you think about it a little more deeply, why there? Why in that place? Like my Rebbe's Rebbe Moshe Schneider would say, every missile has its destination, has its address. Why so many there? There's something going on in that town. I don't know. I don't have any answers. But it's just I was thinking on this telling someone on the way. I was going to synagogue Friday night. Friday afternoon. That's what I was thinking. Why? The place is not getting hit. I don't have an answer. All right, simple answer is on the line of fire. They're closest there. Okay, but if God wanted it to happen, they wouldn't hit anything. All the rockets would just, go somewhere else or whatever. Why specifically there? I don't have an answer. I don't know. I have to ask him. I have to ask my Rebbe, see if he give me an answer. And he would probably say, I probably know what the answer is already. He'd probably say, don't know. I mean, it sounds like some sort of decree on that place. I don't know. Even though they're so close. But that's unnerving. That is totally unnerving. These people living in shelters. They live in bomb shelters. Like on a regular basis. That's insane. Yeah. Every second they're worried, a missile's going to come. And there are thousands of these missiles. Scare people out of their minds. You get like 10 seconds. You hear that siren go off, you got 10 seconds. Or a little bit, maybe a little bit more. 10 to 15 seconds, to get into a shelter. That's how quick it is. Imagine living there like on a daily basis. Imagine people in Texas, right? Anyone out there in Texas? Imagine in Texas, this was happening from Mexico. You think the government would just lie down and not do, okay, don't attack them, this, that. They flatten them like a pancake. Wouldn't be anything to talk about. We're not going to speak about politics. The Israel can't do that because the only way to stop them is they have to go door to door and everything's booby trapped. And they're using people as human shields. There are people in Gaza that got killed because of misfire missiles. You think they care about their own people? And the funny thing is, if they shoot missiles where I live, there are a bunch of Arab villages here. The odds of hitting Jews are very slim compared to the Arab villages around. You think they care about killing their own people? They care less. As long as they try and kill Jews, that's all that matters. Yeah. So I can understand places that are closer, there are more Jews. I'm not saying it should happen. But in the places where, there are Jews, but there are Arabs surrounding you, the chances are they'll hit the Arabs, not you. I shouldn't say it's funny. It's ironic. There were 2 Arabs that were killed working in Jewish fields outside, in one of these towns. 2 Arab brothers. Yeah. You think the people in Gaza care? They're aiming for Jews. So, they're luck. They're working in a field. They got killed. God's irony. Yeah, somebody asks, one second here. Someone asks, how do you know if there's a mistake? If you're being tested as a mistake? Well, I think it's pretty obvious. Right? There are things that are black and white, I would say, that a person makes a mistake, they'll know. I would say other things are not as clear. But if you said something, you someone back, doesn't matter what they said, you don't have a right to curse. Or you don't have a right to speak Lashon Hara when it's forbidden. So that you made a mistake, right? Obvious things. What is not so obvious? Yeah, that's a good question. That has to be evaluated. If it was a mistake or not. But if it's something obvious, there's no question. So I don't understand the question. What do you mean? What's the test? There's a test. You're put in a situation. You're put in a certain situation. Yeah. So someone says something to you, you get ticked off. Let's say you get ticked off. You want to smack them. You're cursing in your mind. Well, that's not good. And let's say you started to curse them. That's even worse. Yeah. So you were tested. That someone got you angry. So you have to work on your anger. Yeah. On that, you failed. We also learn that even a person lifts their hand and they don't strike someone, you're called evil. I'm not talking about self-defense. Yeah. So I think there are things that are clear cut. The person, made a mistake and it's clear they made a mistake. Other times, maybe it's not so clear. But if you think about the test, and you think about what went on, and what you were supposed to do probably, right? Think about the whole thing. Think about what you went through. Think about what the test is and see, did you pass or not? But analyze it in a real way. What were you thinking? What did you do? What was the end result? Right? And see? Someone asks, how much did you love yourself? You should love yourself a lot. Give yourself a lot of self-esteem. Yeah. At the same time, you got to know what your place is. We have to know who we are. Honestly. See, it's very negative to hate yourself. And we can hate ourselves for a number of reasons. We're not consistent. We should have done this. We made mistakes. We hurt loved ones. I mean, all kinds of things can make us depressed, can make us realize we're not doing what we're supposed to do. And that could say why, even though I'm trying to do the right thing, guess what? I make things worse. You got to cut yourself a little bit of slack. But I would say at the same time, okay, you made a mistake, fix it. Figure out how you're going to fix it. Some things are hard to fix. I know some people in certain situations, they got a lot of things to fix. You know what? It's going to take, they're basically going to have to be destroyed in certain terms in order for them to come out and fix what they need to fix. That's going to be very hard. But you have to have self-esteem. So, self-esteem means we think we're pretty good people, right? Everyone wants to think they're good. Problem is, other people may not think we're so good because we did this, that, and the other thing. Okay, we're human. Some things we do really bad. Some things only bad. Some things actually we do pretty good, but you want to have a certain level of self-esteem. You can't have arrogance. Think, oh, I'm God's gift to the world and this and that. It's a different issue. That's a different issue. But to have self-esteem and think you think you're a good person and you're trying, that's what God wants. He wants us to try. Does that mean we're perfect? No. Does that mean we always do the right thing? No. So we have to own up to things we do wrong. But we don't want to beat ourselves down no matter what anyone says about us to say that I'm a bad person. No one wants to be considered a bad person. There are plenty of bad people out there because they just are. So if we want to go in the right way, we have to realize we have a long way to go. We have a lot of things to fix. Yeah, we're a work in progress our whole lives. But, if you made mistakes, you're going to fix them. You're going to try and fix them. But loving yourself is not a bad thing. You have to have self-esteem. No one is really that bad, no matter what anyone says about it. If I were to listen to certain people, yeah, I could feel like a piece of dirt tomorrow. Easily. And they have no problems telling me as well. Okay. I don't need to listen to people like that. Am I perfect? Not by any stretch. Do I have a lot to work on? We all do. Plenty what to work on. It's hard. It's hard to admit you made mistakes. Hard to admit you made serious mistakes. And they can have tremendous repercussions in the future. But you have to feel good about yourself. A lot of people hate themselves. It's not their fault. Because other people have told them that, or they've been bullied, or anything, anything in between. Does God want you to feel that bad? No. Does he want you to be depressed? No. Does he want you, to be on medication? No. Some things we might have to do, okay, but no, most people out there are not that bad. Some more, some less, but if we're working on ourselves and we're trying, okay, again, it doesn't mean we're perfect, but you're right. You have to have a certain level of self-esteem. You shouldn't feel you're that bad. Yeah. Any other questions? All right, I'm going to stop here. I do this every Saturday, 2:30 Eastern time, 9:30 Israel time. Tomorrow, Book of Leviticus chapter 16. It's going to be 9 o'clock Eastern time, 4 o'clock Israel time. And Ohio Nation's going to speak about prophecy and inspiration. That's going to be an interesting topic. That's going to be 2:30 Eastern time, 9:30 Israel time. Anyone has any questions, find me on Facebook at Michael Chaim Kaufman, Beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism, or orthodoxconversion.com, or Beyond Orthodox Conversion to Judaism on YouTube. Got videos there on Pirke Avos, Ethics for Our Fathers, Q&As, Torah Report of the Week, controversial issues. And anyone send me an email, rabbichaimkaufman@gmail.com, RBBIChaimCoffman@gmail.com.